Hello and welcome to the first reading of the Leftynet WordPress blog. I'm your host Jacob, and today I will present to you three of John's blog posts, one being a bit longer at the end. The first one is from 29th of October 2017, and it's called In Defense of the Deed. Let us face it, the modern left is depressed and devitalized. The modern left is hollow. I think we can all agree when I say that the modern left is sporadic and desultory. Where does the left truly exist? Where does it hold water outside of petty protests and riots? One could say Rojava. For others, it's Greece. But truly, where does the left have any stronghold that is not alive only because it would be easier for them to riot than to shut them down? Rojava, in my mind, is truly the only place where we have a chance. And that is not something to be excited about. For if we only have a single chance that is not guaranteed, do we even consider that a chance? The American left has grown threefold only thanks to the failure of Bernie Sanders and the death of Heather Heyer. But even then, what drew people to the left? Certainly not the left itself. What drew people to the left was in whole the failure of the left they knew and the realization of the world they didn't. This is where we start to see the holes in the left's fading quote-unquote momentum. We ourselves cannot draw any support, fight any meaningful battles, and to the modern left, changing society as a whole is now only a utopian ideal, which leads us to the title of this article: We Must Defend the Deed. And now a quote from Max Nettlau. Every person is likely to be open to a different kind of argument, so propaganda cannot be diversified enough if we want to touch all. We want it to pervade and penetrate all the utterances of life, social and political, domestic and artistic, educational and recreational. There should be propaganda by word and action, the platform and the press, the street corner, the workshop, the domestic circle, acts of revolt, and the example of our own lives as free men. Those who agree with each other may cooperate, otherwise they should prefer to work, each on his own lines, to trying to persuade one the other of the superiority of his own method. End quote. Yes, this is truly what the left lacks: propaganda and excitement. When was the last time the left was excited and energized, besides student protests and Inauguration Day? That is the issue. That is what needs to change. What is a movement that cannot garner any new members that didn't come from an indirect action? What is a movement that cannot garner any new members that didn't come as a result of political wandering? Let us look back at what the left used to be. ARF, Years of Lead, May 68, labor unions. That is what the left once was and should be: a driving political force that holds water, is a household name, and is of course alive. Alive? That is something that the left has not been able to claim to be for a long time. Alive is the epitome of what the left is slowly becoming. Direct action, influence, those words are slowly becoming more meaningful. And of course, more important, Greece's anarchist and leftist influence, though still in its infant state by any revolutionary meaning, is now utilizing propaganda and the deed. With the death of two Golden Dawn members, we see their exuberance in action. We see that the left is only alive through the deed, but most importantly, we see that the left is alive. Alright, so that was John's refreshing article in defense of the deed, which you can find on the WordPress blog if you want to read it later. So this next article was posted by John on the 21st of February 2018. The fight for Afrin, the fight for freedom. There is no debate over the complexity of the situation in Syria, and there is no doubt a huge internal conflict within the left on whether to support the SDF, YPG, or the Syrian government under Assad. I feel this divide will only worsen as the Afrin conflict continues. I mentioned this as pro-government militias now enter Afrin under the banner of defending Syria, whether SDF or SAA from the new Turkish aggression in the north. I don't think any of us have to be reminded of the horrors displayed by Turkish nationalism and imperialist aggression during the 20th century, the disgusting acts committed against its Armenian minority. It's a sin that will scar those in Turkey for as long as it exists. We can all come to agree with the fact that Turkey's interests are directly opposed to a powerful system with its backbone in democracy and Turkish recognition, a system that recognizes the rights of all people groups and the rights of women. What Turkey seeks isn't a buffer zone to protect its Islamist dogs, but to secure itself as a powerful force in the Middle East, something that must be opposed regardless of political affiliation. The SDF and pro-government militias have recognized this fact and are working together to stop the slaughter that will take place if Erdogan gets what he wants. There is no doubt that Russia has shown its truly ugly face in this situation by allowing Turkey the right to Afrin, by allowing Turkey to bring decades of systematic oppression to a head in a fight that symbolizes the Kurdish people's right for self-governance itself. This fight should remind us all of the horrors from the past, and should unite us all, if only for a moment, against a force in Syria that will prove more detrimental than any other. So that was the fight for Afrin, the fight for freedom. This next article is a lot longer. It's divided into 3 parts. It was posted on the 9th of March. It's called Afrin, the Issue with Reporting. Podcasts, the core dilemma and its solution. Starting off this article, I want to talk about a topic I don't think a lot of people really understand or even know about. I want to talk about how the podcast format of journalism dilutes the depth of information you're getting in as the topic grows in size. Recording the February podcast on March 7th showed this in the best way possible. It was easy to talk about Afrin, as it would be when you've read so much about it. It was hard to talk about Afrin in the way that everybody could understand and take from. That's really the main issue with podcasts in general. They do their job at nightly informing people, but unless they delve into one specific issue within another specific topic, they fail to deliver the type of information people expect. With the Middle East, this is especially true. I can't delve into the political and social issues that began the invasion of Afrin without talking about the current situation, which I would have to completely neglect when speaking about. The quality of the podcast itself comes down to a few things: how entertaining or likable the hosts are, how interesting the information is, the quality of the ending, and finally the quality of the sound itself. This is what makes a podcast itself good. But what makes the podcast information quality and informative is how large the topic itself is, how in-depth you are, how much you have to cover, etc. It all boils down to how much information you can sacrifice for people to keep listening. This is the core of the issue with podcasts. Informing people and entertaining people are 2 utterly different things. Podcasts should act, especially the Leftynet podcast, as a supplementary piece of information that you use when trying to learn more about a topic, not as learning about a topic itself. The Leftynet podcast is a decent podcast. It is by no means bad for a podcast, but all podcasts have this issue with information and its quality. The only real solution to this is either to make an 8-hour edited podcast or find a way to give people the information they want on the side with the podcast or resources to things discussed in the podcast itself. Essentially, handing them the same resources you used, but instead of acting like a delivery man for information, acting as a TLDR for what the information you either already given then or they themselves probably know about. This is something that Leftynet itself has yet to work on, which we definitely plan on doing in the future. Afrin, the issue with reporting. The situation in Afrin has become more and more complex as Operation Olive Branch has successfully formed itself and begun to make progress. So many things that could have happened did happen. We see the stopping of Jazeera Storm, the Kurdish operation to finally push ISIS out of its pocket east of and on the Euphrates. We see Turkey calling the Aegean Isles Turkish clay, and most importantly, we see an all-out invasion of Afrin. The situation only becomes more complex with the added layers of war crimes, SAA intervention, and the US's perceived betrayal of Syrian Kurds, even going as far as to have the commander of SDF forces refer to SDF as forgotten US ally. All of this packed onto each other makes it extremely hard, if not impossible, to report on and educate people about. For someone to understand the history behind each single decision made, it would take hours of researching, nonetheless forming their own opinions on them. It's for this exact reason that reporting and handling people information about Afrin is so hard. They truly have to want to understand the situation in order to grasp it, and no one source will be able to do that for them. This, of course, isn't counting how bloody these things actually are, and what you have to do in order to look at what's happening and be able to detach yourself from them in order to give a fair viewpoint. The next segment of the article will cover that specifically, but for now, I want to continue explaining how genuinely hard it is to be able to report about these things. I genuinely don't enjoy calling myself or Leftynet as a whole a news source or myself a journalist. I feel like referring to myself or this project in that way is a complete injustice to those that actually are there. Actually seeing these things, taking the pictures that I myself have learned to stomach. Leftynet should and always will be represented as a community project, not a news outlet or its equivalent. By referring ourselves with that title of a news source, invokes a perceived expectation of both the quality of content and what the content itself will be. By referring to ourselves with that title, we wouldn't be able to give smaller content creators both the type of audience they need in order to grow and who they want. If you see an article written in support of communist or on a liberal-centered and focused website or organization, the communists' community would grow, of course, but it wouldn't be both the community that they were originally looking for, or what they need in order to improve their content outside of a morale boost. That is effectively what would happen if we let that tag hook onto Leftynet and stay. The future of Leftynet and where we plan on going. The future of Leftynet is something we've always managed to talk about in almost any situation. We want to continue to actively create podcasts and write articles, as well as to give that same opportunity to smaller content creators. There are a plethora of leftists interested in creating their own content, but they don't have a good outlet or an audience to get started with. We plan on continuing to help these people in their goals with content creation, whatever they might be. If possible, we hope to have a group of people open to helping edit or teach other people to edit in their spare time. As of right now, We have a lot of things planned for Leftynet. The only thing holding us back is time and scheduling. We have no intentions on stopping or slowing down any content production in any way at this time. It's important to note that we do not have a Patreon or make money off of anything we do. This project, at its core, is funded by our dedication and passion to giving other people the chance to create the content and the communities that they want. If we ever do make a Patreon or begin to make money off of this project, at no point will it ever include using it for our own personal use unless extremely necessary. Any future profit, if there is any, will go directly to benefiting this project and its capacity for quality content and its goal in directly helping others. Now, if you want to help with your content or want to get involved with in the community or its projects, you can find us down here in the description below. And of course, active participation is optional. We hope to hear from you very soon.